Let's get one thing straight right now. Strength doesn't whine, strength works. You've been told it's okay to vent, to rant, to scream into the void. You've been taught that expressing your emotions is strength. But let me tell you something, true strength isn't loud. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't cry out for validation. Real strength just shows up, shuts up, and does the work. We live in a world where noise is mistaken for power. But making noise isn't progress. Talking about what you're going through doesn't move you forward. Doing the work does. Showing up when you don't feel like it does. Getting up after being knocked down, that's strength. Ask yourself, are you a fighter or a complainer? When life punches you in the mouth, what's your first move? Do you tighten your fists and hit back harder? Or do you run to social media and post a sob story hoping someone will feel sorry for you? Do you take control of the pain or do you hand it a microphone? Look, we all go through storms. You're not special because life hit you. Life hits everyone. But what separates the weak from the strong is what you do next. Complainers explain, fighters execute. And I know that hurts to hear. I know you want to believe that expressing frustration is part of the journey, but here's the truth. Complaining is the easy way out. And deep down, you know it. It doesn't cost you anything to complain. It doesn't demand growth. It doesn't force you to stretch, to change, or to get stronger. It just allows you to stay exactly where you are stuck. People complain because it's comfortable. It keeps them warm in their own weakness. But comfort never created a warrior. Ease never forged a leader. Comfort breeds cowards. Pressure breeds power. And let me tell you something else. The more time you spend talking about the storm, the less time you spend building the shelter. You want real change? Then you gotta shut your mouth and move your feet. Real strength doesn't explain the pain, it endures it. It doesn't beg for understanding. It becomes unstoppable regardless of who gets it. Here's a metaphor for you. Strength is a quiet engine, not a car alarm. A car alarm screams every time someone touches it, overreacts at the smallest shake. But a real engine, that thing roars only when it's working. It doesn't make noise for attention, it makes noise for power, for movement, for purpose. Which one are you? Are you the engine, focused, disciplined, moving forward in silence? Or are you the car alarm going off every time something challenges you, hoping the world comes running? Look around you. The strongest people you know aren't the ones who talk about their struggle all day. They're the ones who let their results speak. They're the ones who show up day after day without a word. They don't need likes. They don't need praise. They don't need sympathy because they've already decided, I'm not here to be seen. I'm here to be strong. That's what this is about. It's about becoming someone who doesn't flinch, someone who doesn't fold, someone who doesn't need to be seen suffering to prove they're still standing. Let this be the day you stop rehearsing weakness and start practicing strength. Let this be the moment you stop explaining your pain and start turning it into fuel. From now on, every time you want to open your mouth to complain, clench your fists instead. Every time you feel like telling someone how hard it is, go harder. Every time you feel like giving up, get up. Because real strength, it doesn't whine. It doesn't wait. It doesn't need permission. It just works. Let's talk about the world we're living in right now because it's loud, chaotic, and full of people saying everything and doing nothing. The world is addicted to its own suffering. You can see it everywhere. People glorify their struggles, broadcast their breakdowns, and wear their wounds like medals. Pain has become a personality trait. Trauma is trending. And instead of healing, people keep hitting replay on their misery just to get another round of attention. But let me be real with you. Talking about your pain isn't the same as transforming through it. You don't grow just because you vent. You grow when you move. You grow when you shut the world out and start doing what needs to be done. Even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when it hurts. You feel good in the moment? Sure. You get some likes. Maybe someone drops a stay strong in the comments. But then what? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel stronger? Are you closer to your goals? No. Because venting gives you a dopamine hit without delivering any real change. It tricks your mind into thinking you've done something, but all you've done is spoken about the pain. You haven't conquered it. Here's the hard truth. You can have progress or you can have pity, but you can't have both. You either use your pain to push or you use it as a pillow to lie down and stay weak. And I know the world tells you it's okay to stay broken. I know people will validate your struggle. They'll tell you you're strong for just surviving. But surviving isn't the goal, thriving is. And you don't thrive by crying louder than the next person. You thrive by doing the work they won't do. Real winners, they grind in silence. They're not on Instagram posting quotes about the storm, they're in the storm, building themselves. They're not looking for a round of applause. They're too busy becoming the person no one saw coming. You think that Olympic athlete you admire spent their nights talking about how tired they were? You think that single mother working 2 jobs is updating the world every time she feels exhausted? You think warriors sit around explaining why life's unfair? No, they suffer in silence. They sacrifice without show. They struggle with no need for sympathy. Because real winners don't need the world to know their pain. They want the world to feel their power. Let me ask you something. How many times have you told the same sad story? How many times have you said, I'm trying, while doing nothing different? How many times have you replayed the hurt, the loss, the betrayal like a broken record? Let me tell you something. You can't keep repeating the pain and expect the healing to come. You can't walk in circles and expect to move forward. You can't build a strong life with weak habits and weaker excuses. Stop repeating the pain and start repeating the work, the habits, the discipline, the effort, the late nights, the early mornings, the mindset, because that's what gets you out of the pit. Not another conversation, not another therapy meme, not another round of emotional applause. It's what you do when no one's watching. That's where strength is forged. That's where success is born. So if you want something real, something lasting, something powerful, shut the noise off. Cut the volume on the world. Ignore the distractions. Let the others talk about their pain. You don't need to be heard. You need to be better. You don't need to be seen. You need to be unshakable. You don't need another word. You need another rep, another step, another sacrifice. Because in this age of noise, the quiet ones win. The ones who stop explaining, the ones who stop performing, the ones who choose the work over the words. So today, make a decision. No more broadcasting the pain. No more crying for clicks. No more choosing pity over purpose. Because you weren't built to stay broken. You were built to rise in silence. And when you do, they'll feel your presence long before they hear your story. Let me break down something that's keeping you stuck and is happening in your own mind. Complaining feels good, but it destroys you. Why? Because your brain is wired to chase comfort, not growth. And every time you complain, every time you vent, every time you unload your frustration just to get it off your chest, you get a tiny hit of dopamine, a chemical rush that makes you feel like you did something. But let's be real. You didn't do anything. That's the lie, the dopamine lie. It's why we love to talk about our problems. It's why we feel better for a moment when someone says, that must be so hard. It tricks us into thinking we've made progress when all we've done is press pause on our pain without ever stepping through it. See, your brain doesn't care if you grow. It just wants relief. It wants that validation, that agreement that, yes, you're right, life is unfair. And when you get it, boom, dopamine. You feel seen. You feel justified. But you're no closer to healing. You're no closer to victory. Let me ask you something. Are you releasing the pressure or just repeating the pain? Because those aren't the same thing. One builds strength. The other builds a cycle. You can talk about your wounds all day long, but if you never start moving toward the cure, all you're doing is reopening them. Talking is not always healing. Sometimes talking is hiding. Sometimes it's an excuse to not move. Sometimes it's a way to keep the pain alive, just so people don't forget what you've been through. But here's the truth. You don't rise by being understood. You rise by being unshaken. Every time you speak weakness, Every time you tell yourself, I can't, I'm tired, it's too much, you carve those words into your own identity. You're not just expressing yourself, you're programming yourself. Words are seeds. And if you keep planting pity, don't be surprised when you keep harvesting powerlessness. Let me say it again. Every word of weakness you speak lowers your power. Your voice becomes your story. Your story becomes your mindset. Your mindset becomes your life. Now, does that mean you can't feel pain? Of course not. You're human. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to cry. But there's a difference between feeling it and feeding it, between being honest about the struggle and being addicted to the story. And many people, maybe even you, have become addicted to the story because, let's face it, sympathy is comfortable. It's warm. It makes you feel loved. It makes you feel cared for. And it's easier than discipline, easier than showing up at 5 a.m., easier than holding your tongue when life kicks you in the mouth, easier than putting your head down and working through the storm. But comfort can become a cage, a soft trap that keeps you from ever developing real resilience. Sympathy doesn't make you stronger. It just helps you survive weakness. But you weren't born to survive weakness. You were born to overcome it. You don't need a hand on your shoulder. You need a hand on your back, pushing you forward. You don't need someone telling you it's okay to stay where you are. You need someone telling you get up and fight again. Let me tell you something that could change your life. Talk less, do more. Heal through action. You want to feel better? Move. You want to stop hurting? Build something. You want strength? Then stop speaking like a victim and start walking like a warrior. Your wounds don't define you. Your work does. Your story doesn't end with your pain. It begins with what you do about it. Repetition builds reality. So from now on, repeat what you want to become. Say this out loud. I am stronger than what broke me. I don't beg for strength. I build it. I don't rehearse my pain. I rewrite it. And every time the urge to complain rises in your chest, pause, breathe, remind yourself, this energy is better spent on building than blaming. So what will you choose? The comfort of the complaint or the power of the comeback? The decision is yours, and it starts right now. Real strength doesn't scream. It doesn't need attention. It doesn't beg to be understood. It just moves like a wolf. Let me paint you a picture. A wolf doesn't bark in the snow. It doesn't howl just to be heard. It walks, it stalks, it survives. Silent, focused, dangerous. That's real strength, not noise, not ego, not performance, just relentless motion. Too many people think strength is how loud you cry or how aggressively you speak. But strength isn't in the volume, it's in the silence. It's in the way you carry yourself when nobody's clapping. The strongest people I've ever known weren't the ones who talked about it. They were the ones who just kept going. They were the ones who buried their heartbreak and showed up anyway. The ones who felt the fear, tasted the failure, and moved forward regardless. Let me tell you something most won't. Restraint is power. Your ability to not react. Your ability to hold the line when everything inside you wants to break it. That's what makes you dangerous. Anybody can explode. Anybody can throw a fit, lash out, break down, or give up. That's easy. That's weakness disguised as expression. But the one who can stand still in the fire and not flinch, that's power. You ever seen a professional fighter before a match? Calm, quiet, collected. Not because he isn't ready, but because he's so ready, he doesn't need to prove it. That's what I'm talking about. And underneath that restraint is something even deeper, discipline. Discipline is what separates the average from the elite. Discipline is what makes you wake up when your emotions say sleep. It's what makes you train when your body says quit. It's what makes you stay focused when the world says get distracted. Discipline is strength in disguise. It doesn't look glamorous. It's not exciting. No one claps for it. But it's the foundation of everything you want. You want freedom? Build discipline. You want respect? Master discipline. You want strength? Stop waiting for motivation and install discipline like a brick wall around your weakness. And listen carefully. You don't need more time. You don't need more talent. You need more consistency. Consistency beats intensity every single time. The person who trains when they don't feel like it, the person who studies when it's boring, the person who shows up without applause, that's the one who wins. Not because they're better, but because they're built differently. So here's your mantra. Show up, shut up, level up, stop explaining. Stop waiting for understanding. Stop posting about the process. Just show up every day, every storm, every setback. No excuses, no noise, just action. You see, strength doesn't need a stage. It doesn't need to be seen. It needs a standard, a personal code, a backbone, a line you refuse to cross no matter what. That's the difference between a performer and a warrior. A performer needs the crowd. A warrior needs the mission. And your mission, it's not just to survive life, it's to dominate it. Not with noise, not with words, but with work, with control, with unshakable focus. You think David Goggins cared, who liked his journey? You think Kobe Bryant needed your approval to wake up at 4 a.m.? You think your mom, your uncle, your grandfather who worked 2 jobs and never said a word about it needed to post their struggle? No, they just did the work. That's strength. And that's what the world needs from you. So starting today, be the wolf, be the worker, be the quiet weapon nobody sees coming. Don't just talk strong, walk strong. Don't chase applause, chase the standard. Don't explain your strength, embody it. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs warriors. And a real warrior moves in silence, works in darkness, and wins in light. Go stand in front of a mirror. Don't smile, don't fake it, don't adjust the lighting. Just stand there, still, quiet, raw. Now ask yourself one question. Who am I without my excuses? Because that reflection looking back at you, that's the only competition you ever have. The world isn't stopping you. The haters aren't stopping you. Your childhood, your pain, your past, they're not stopping you. It's what you keep telling yourself in secret that's got you stuck. We live in a world full of people who know how to act strong, but don't know how to be strong. They post strength, they quote strength, but when the lights are off and no one's watching, they fold. Are you one of them? Are you living strong or just acting hurt? It's easy to act hurt. It's easy to tell people, you don't know what I've been through. It's easy to wear pain like a badge, hoping someone sees it and validates your struggle. But pain isn't strength. Enduring pain is strength. Rising from it, that's real strength. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Some people aren't healing because they don't want to. They're too attached to their identity as the one who was wronged, abandoned, mistreated, overlooked. And maybe that's you. Maybe deep down, you're afraid that if you stop being hurt, you won't have a story. You won't have a reason. You won't have something to fall back on. But hear me when I say this. You can't heal while you're still performing pain. You can't move forward if you keep rehearsing your suffering. You can't grow if you keep watering the weeds of what broke you. Pain is part of the story, but it's not the whole story. And it damn sure isn't the ending. Look, I get it. You want to be understood. You want someone to get how hard it's been. You want people to acknowledge what you've survived. But let me be brutally honest with you. Nobody owes you understanding. Life requires action. Life doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if it's fair. It doesn't care who hurt you, who left you, who doubted you. All it responds to is movement, effort, decision. You can be the most hurt, most misunderstood, most overlooked person in the world and still win. But only if you stop explaining and start executing. Only if you stop crying for clarity and start walking in discipline. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's gonna write your comeback story for you. You've got to pick up the pen and write it yourself, without applause, without validation, without asking for permission. And that shift, that resurrection, it happens the moment you stop talking and start doing. The day you shut up is the day you rise up. That's the moment when the victim becomes the warrior, when the pain becomes the power, when the storm becomes the starting line. That's when life starts bending in your favor, not because it suddenly became easier, but because you became stronger. Say this to yourself right now out loud. No more pity, no more posts, no more pain performance. Just power, just pressure, just purpose. You don't need another excuse. You need a mirror, and in that mirror, you need to see someone who refuses to stay down, someone who refuses to be defined by their worst day, someone who isn't waiting to be seen because they're already in motion, because now you walk like a warrior. And warriors don't whine. Warriors don't beg. Warriors don't break, they build. The world taught you to be loud about your pain, but today you learn real power moves in silence. The most dangerous ones in the room are never the ones yelling, they're the ones watching, waiting, sharpening. From this day forward, you don't explain storms. You walk through them. You don't tell people how hard it is. You show them how hard you hit back. You don't warn people what's coming. You let your actions thunder through the silence. Storm walkers don't need sympathy. They don't ask the sky to clear. They put on their boots, grit their teeth, and keep moving forward. Not because it's easy, but because quitting is no longer an option. And if you've ever doubted your ability to be that person, look at your life. You've already survived more than most people know. You've carried weights that would have crushed weaker souls. You've walked through seasons that didn't break you, they built you. So don't tell me you're not strong. Your past proves you are. The problem isn't that you're weak, it's that you've been lying to yourself. You've been playing small, waiting for permission, hiding behind wounds like they're shields. But you were never meant to blend in with the broken. You were built to break through. You don't need to be louder, you need to be deeper, rooted, grounded, locked in. So starting today, get up, stay quiet, hit harder. You don't owe the world your story, you owe it your strength. You don't need to be understood, you need to be undeniable. You don't need people to feel your pain, you need them to feel your presence. Because presence speaks louder than pain. Focus echoes louder than frustration. Results scream louder than excuses. And when you walk in silence with your head high, your habits sharp, and your soul anchored, they'll feel you coming. Before you say a word, before they know your name, before they understand your past, they'll sense your power. Let me leave you with this. No more whining, no more posting, no more pity. Just work, just strength, just victory. Because when the world gets loud, you get locked in. When life gets hard, you go harder. And when the weak speak, you move in silence. Strength doesn't complain, it conquers. And from now on, so will you.